We're live.
Woohoo!
Look at this stuff,
Live.
man.
Very live.
Oh, what do I have pulled up? Am I exposing any customer information? I should close all the things I have pulled up.
Oh boy.
I'll do it after you go live because that's good OPSEC, right?
That's the way it works.
We want to bring you an authentic show, so don't screenshot whatever Tom just shared.
Of course. Are we
I got all the
live
phone numbers.
Are we? Where are we? It's not on my. Oh, there we go. There we go. I was looking. I'm like, where is it at? There we go. Can you guys hear me today?
Yep.
Hopefully everybody can hear me. Coming through loud and clearly.
Yep. And let me make sure I give you yes, you got permission to share a screen. So we got all those details out of the way.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I am Tom Lawrence, and we have
Xavier D. Johnson.
And we are How They Got Hacked today, and gonna bullshit about security and enlighten people or not. I don't know. We're gonna.
Who knows?
We got some show notes. How's that?
We're gonna catch some people's up. I think we already got 5 likes, and that is a new record. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for liking this video.
They're trying to encourage us to be more consistent here.
Yeah, there you go. Encouragement is always nice.
I'm okay with this.
Listen, we came to you on my birthday last week, on my actual day of birth. So
the date of birth here, yes.
Yeah, like we actually, I got way too wasted that night. Last Friday, I got wasted. It was amazing. It was amazing. My lady hooked us up at the bar, rented out the whole bar, bought the whole entire bar. I think it was about 13 of us there, all outside, and just unlimited drinks after drink after drink. It was just so many drinks.
Now that I'm over 40, I realize that that comes at a cost. It's exponential. The older you get, you just don't bounce. I'm just gonna say the next morning, you're not like, oh, let me hair the dog this and go. No. You're like, hold on, let me just die on the couch for at least 24 hours.
Oh man,
I remember my 20s, so.
Yes, so I only got 1 year left of my 20s, less than a year now. Aging.
That's all right though. Once you get some of that gray hair, you'll glad I did enjoy it.
I found one, got rid of it. Don't worry about it. It's out of there. So yeah, not you.
Hey. No Self made it to the live show.
Woo! Up though. Yeah. How was your week this week, Tom?
Good. Got to go. I went for a cruise. Took the car up the shore of Michigan. I had never done that. Like the whole, I usually drive out 75. Actually went around the shore and everything. So that was pretty cool.
Very nice. Very nice.
So yeah, that went well.
Sounds like
what else do we got? Fun. Make sure I got all my I got everything pulled up right. Just let's double check because me and you get off on topics. There's the show before the show, which is me and Xavier talking about stuff. So it's
like honestly, I used to pull up at like 5:30, 6 o'clock, and then we would still go live at like 7.
Yep.
For the exact same reason. Like no matter how early we get there, like we tried to get together at 4 o'clock today just so that we didn't go over, and we still went over. But hey.
Yep, I sent you the link an hour ago for the Zoom. We started the Zoom call. The Zoom's already an hour in before you guys.
Yep, Zoom is 1 hour and 8 minutes long. I got the counter to prove it.
So, my week was relatively mundane other than going for a little road trip. But the Xavier had some exciting stuff. I don't know how much he can share, but we did talk about things he worked on and stuff like that. That's but outside of your birthday, was your week good otherwise?
Oh yeah, it was pretty.
What
good.
you showed me was really cool. I'm sorry that I have to only tease that.
I can show that. I don't think anybody will be mad if I show a little bit of razzle dazzle. So I could start up a listener. you know?
Yep.
That's a little magic.
Little magic. That's and Xavier's in. It takes a lot to get those reverse shells working like that, but that was really slick.
Yeah,
That's
that took a few days to get working the way that it should be working. Lots of bad characters that you would not expect. Uh, it's an interesting little bug.
yeah. And that's what's kind of fun when you're doing these, and when people see. When you've taken the time to write these scripts or do something, people say, well, how's that work so fast? Or how's that work? I'm like, there's hours and hours and hours of working on either an exploit or some type of infrastructure setup or whatever the thing you're setting. It's kind of cool, though, when you're like, watch me type one command and get shell. It takes so much to get there, but it's so rewarding to type that one little command and like, boom, they're in.
Yeah, it's really really fun to get to that point where you could just have the code that works. And what people don't realize is shell code is interesting and it doesn't always work the exact same way all the time. Sometimes you have to regenerate shell code a few times for it to work properly, especially if you're dealing with the generation of shell code and not creating your own shell code by hand, which sure people do it, but I don't have any friends that I know of. I hope I don't have friends out there creating, writing their own shell code. Oh man, poor guys or gals. Oh, so yeah, spent a lot of time doing that this week.
You just finished that today, didn't you?
Yeah, I just did that like 20-30 minutes before we got on a call.
So I know it was the first thing we dove into was that. It was pretty cool. You walked me through the code and everything else. So.
Yes, it's fun. I can't pull up the code because that's secrets.
That's secrets. Yeah. Just the fact that it works.
It works. I got a ASX file that gives me a reverse shell, which is fun. And so now we're looking for ways to put reverse shells in anything that you can run through anything. That's kind of like the idea, right? Like, how do I take my Logitech camera, flash it with the firmware so that when I plug it into Tom's computer, because we're going live, it fires off a remote code, a reverse shell to me, and still works as a camera for Tom, because that's where we're at right now. Like if you look at the OMG cable, which looks just like an Apple cable, but it has this nice payload in here that you don't know that this is an evil cable. And when you plug it up, oh, look at that. Oh man, that sucks.
Those are the fun things. Those
the fun stuff.
That's the fun stuff. Working on it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what people realize too is when you see like an update to something, that's what they start working on. Like for right now, there's a way you can take an ASX file. That's the only information you have. And sometimes this is all the information that's had by even threat actors is what was updated. Microsoft patched Windows Media Player. Why? Okay, what can we do with that information? We can start reverse engineering the DLLs. We can differential the update and say, okay, this is where they changed it, but we still don't know what shell code has to do there. Do you fuzz it because you have lots of time, or do you start poking and running over certain areas, and what kind of bad characters can you send to it? So this is kind of like the walking through the reverse process of it till you figure that out. It's kind of fun though. I mean, so now you guys have the information. By next week, who else can come up with reverse shell code and ASX files?
There you go.
That's your homework, guys. All right,
I'd say have some fun with some macros. Those are some of my favorite things to play with, is setting up VB scripts and macros to get reverse shells. That's really, really useful, especially when you have people like recruiters that are annoying, that open up documents for a living. Like you can just make it rain shells because they're opening up documents, and all of a sudden, bam, look at that, reverse shell.
Yeah. It's we had a really slick PowerShell script that we did some reverse engineering on. Matter of fact, because last week I published that video, and I have since talked to numerous people, talk about making some friends over at Sentinel-1. I may have found a slight. We're still working it out whether or not it's a flaw in the way one of their systems works, the way it didn't catch something. So they found it really interesting. I gave them permission to further investigate. It's a very new piece of Emotet and the way it runs its PowerShell. So they're very interested in it because you know, and this is also where you're working on the right side of things. You're working with the security community to defend against this. I seen some people, like when I made that video, they commented, "Well, Sentinel-1 is garbage." You know, that I said, "How is that helpful to anyone?"
I don't think
It's a
Sentinel
pretty
one is
solid
garbage.
product in any product. In well, not just any, every product. I don't know anyone who works in cybersecurity that hasn't seen a product run over. How about you, Xavier? How many times have you seen products run over?
Every
Have
time.
yeah. When you do
Yeah.
any type of investigation, that's one of the first things that you're looking for. You're like, well, what did they have as a security stack? Was it implemented properly? And sometimes the answer is yes. It's not always that everyone did something stupid, and sometimes people got through. You look at that exploit that happened with Trend Micro. Is it Toyota or Honda? Which one of the automotives in Japan got hacked? Their hack was Trend Micro itself was what the exploit was. It it was a hard one to find. It was a 0-day. No one else knew about this. It was whoever cooked it up, targeted them with it. I mean, that's they because they knew once they dropped it, once it got out in the wild, someone would fix that. So
Yeah.
it's security's hard. That's why red team always wins.
Yep. Because so many tricks. I mean, have you guys seen the latest trick where if you create a user that is named $ in Windows, they don't pop up when you look for users in Windows?
I thought, well, that's
Just
been
the
that
dollar
way.
sign.
It's just yeah, but I thought you could do that before to hide Windows users.
Uh,
It's probably a legacy thing that
I'm just
still
saying, like, all I
exists.
know is when I go into engagement and I don't want the blue team to know I'm there, I'm the $ user, because I
Yeah,
won't pop up in any of their tooling because they're going to be like list users on the domain, and then I won't be
because
there.
it's the same way the dollar sign shares don't show up. Remember the dollar sign shares, the hidden ones that were default. Like I don't, NT4 might be a little before you, but you could do like a C dollar sign, and
And
it was just
T4 is right before me. I'm a 95 guy.
yeah.
It's like my first real OS was 95. I've never seen NT 4.0. I've never seen 3.5. I've never seen 3.0. Never even like seen it. Like,
Hmm.
can't even imagine what it looks
Well,
like. But
well,
95? Oh my God.
someday we'll spin up memory lane. We'll get some old VMs and play with them.
I would love to see what happens when you try and assign a bunch of resources to one of those old operating systems. Like, what would it do?
Yeah,
Like, would
Windows
it be any
95
better?
had some bugs in it. It doesn't like newer processors, but I think there's some mitigations for it. There's some because when processors got faster, you had to put mitigations in to fix a problem where Windows 95 had a problem with faster processors. That was in the early days of stuff. So we'll have to see how much they work. So that'd be fun.
Jay Panera says, hello from NZ. What's up, Jay? What's happening?
All the way from there.
Ernesto say, yeah, I think it's legacy. Wow, that's pretty sad. Um,
There's a
Windows is
there's still so much legacy in there. That's where all these exploits come from. Because when you look at them, some of these problems are so egregious. They're still patching Windows 7 despite they said they wouldn't. And the reason
right.
why is because it's backwards code. It's old code that got brought forward. Nothing was rebuilt in Windows 10. Nothing was rebuilt in 7. They just been dragging this giant old code base since Windows. Remember that cursor bug? That cursor bug numerous years ago that exploited the mouse over cursor, and someone found out how to execute that. And because cursor runs in GDI, it gave you really high level privileges by swapping out a cursor. And they said, someone reversed it and said, this goes back to Windows 3.1.
Those DLLs have long lives.
Long, if it ain't broke, don't recode it.
Yeah, hey, you know,
But yeah,
that's some interesting stuff there.
yeah.
Speaking of 0 days, did you hear about this? The Cisco 0 day?
Oh, I heard. I didn't. Now which one is this? There's more than one. Was this the one
Oh,
that's in their Jabber client
so no, this is the one that was in the
in their
iOS
hardware?
XR.
Yes,
Right,
the enterprise hardware one.
right. So apparently they found out about this attack during a support case. So iOS, not Apple iOS, but the Internetwork operating system automatically comes with most Cisco gear, and their DV MRP, also known as Distance Vector Multicast Routing Protocol, is a feature that ships with iOS XR, and it looks like 2 bugs affect that, and these were considered 0-day bugs. IGMP packets were mishandled, and this allowed for a number of things to take place. Where's the I guess they were just discovering the attackers exploiting the bug, but they're not talking
Yeah,
about exactly what
because
you
this
can
is
do.
specifically, this is their high-end equipment too.
Right. This is big stuff.
This is not consumer, or even prosumer. This is your big iron, as they call it.
This is enterprise level.
Yep. There's so much noise in the enterprise network. It's so much more scary. So
it looks like it just crashes the environment. So this is denial of service, from what I can tell. So kind of like a packet of death type of situation. 0 days, right? Like you're playing around with something and you're like, I wonder how this protocol works. And you're fuzzing around on it and bam, next thing you know, you crash it and you're like, I wonder, can I do that again? And then it crashes again and you're like, what makes it crash and at what point does it crash? And then you script it and you're like, what can
and
I
then
do
you
with
see
the
what
crash?
you can push over into it. If it crashes, that's opportunity.
Can I debug this somehow? Can I hook it up to the debugger, see where it crashes, how it crashes, why it crashes, right? How much of this crash do I control, right? At what point am I no longer in control of the crash? Maybe if I ever get control of the crash, I'm in control, right? You may be driving your car, but if the Tesla sees that it's going against a wall, it's not going to hit the wall. It's just going to be like, no, don't do that. Right? Isn't that the idea of the whole, keep itself safe kind of system?
Yeah. I've seen a lot of attacks related to that because it was all at the big level, and denial of service at enterprise levels is really dangerous because then people pick and choose and attack these companies. We know they don't like patching the enterprise stuff because it is probably which routes all of the traffic for some large Fortune 1000 company, and someone's just got their finger on the trigger and they're like, watch me knock these guys over real quick to create a distraction.
And think about if you're a growth hacker and you're like, what if we can negotiate a service level, a SLA that says that you have to be up between this time and this time. Now, if I want to be rude, I can knock you off, ruin the SLA. Now you're in breach of the contract, right? Like you got to, maybe a competitor does this. Maybe a savvy business person does this. Maybe some bored hackers playing around and figuring out how these protocols work. You never really know. But that's the fun part about security is it could be any one of those angles, to be honest.
Yes.
Speaking of angles, the mastermind, they're calling them. A mastermind? I don't know if I'm going mastermind.
So, yeah. Federal agents served Massachusetts teenager with a search warrant. He appears to have played a significant role in the July 15th Twitter attack. Does it really feel it was only July 15th? It feels like last year this happened. There's been so much going on.
It's been a lot in a short period of time.
Yeah, but he played a equal, if not more significant in the role. So, yeah. His age at only 16. Now, the big problem is there's just so many holes with the way Twitter's security was. The fact that they, we covered this before. They had their credentials pinned in a Slack channel, the easy access. It didn't take a lot from them. Getting there, not proper. Too many people having too many privileges to be able to do this.
Right.
So it's, yeah. And the fact
is, crazy. The feds would never go after people this young. And here we are going after the mastermind.
Yeah. And it's kind of sad because I think these kids were misguided a lot. I mean, I don't know enough, like know them personally, but it's still one of those things like they have screwed their lives up hard. There's a part of you that says, I know they shouldn't have gone after Twitter, but boy, they're making a mess because they're throwing the book at these kids. So,
and what's interesting is Joseph O'Connor involved in this, or is he just a third party known as Plug Walk Joe, and I'm just curious as to like how to, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and scroll down a little further. He was actually using some good secure communication, but it doesn't sound like completely how they got. They're not fully disclosing how they got him.
Yeah, I want to know. I want to know. I need more details. I'm ready for the unsealing. It's still
It's going to be a
so
little off
high
for the court
level.
case. I think reversing the court case, we're going to find out everything that they did to get them, and that's where this is going to be an interesting story again.
The crazy thing is Wade has an amazing point. 2 grown men followed a 17-year-old and wonder why they got caught. Man, gosh.
Yeah, there are definitely criminal masterminds out there. We don't know who they are because they're masterminds. They're so good at it because the best crime is the one you didn't know happened.
Right. And like, talk about masterminds. Think about these ransomware groups. They're getting away with it.
Oh, that's a good point. We only know them by the amount of money and some Bitcoin transactions. That's it. I mean, when you look at all these ransomware things, when's the last time you seen a major bust? And the closest we came, which obviously tells you something about Tesla's OPSEC, the fact that they sent an agent and $1 million. They tried a lot of other things before they sent an agent and $1 million, because that's as risky as you can get from operational. You do this from behind closed doors, locked doors, behind encryption, behind firewalls. You don't do this in person. The fact that they went in person didn't mail a thumb drive to them and said, hey, I'll also mail you money, where you create a separation.
Out with this person.
Hanging out with them. That's what really made me think that, one, made me feel good because I own a Tesla and I own some Tesla stock, and I feel good that they might be doing OPSEC right, because they sent a guy to the U.S. after them. Because how do you, we said this before, you don't really protect against that. At some point, you just rely on employees to be honest.
Right. And to have your back.
Yeah.
Yeah. There is no protection against that. Oh, did you hear about the Evil Num thing? I think
Evil
that's like
Num, isn't it?
That's the biggest thing of this week that I could think of.
Yeah, targeting firms with a Python-based rat.
A new Python-based rat. So, super interesting, because I mean they've been around for a few years, but Pivel, I don't really know. Python rat, which possesses the abilities to gather information, take screenshots, capture keystrokes, open SSH, deploy other tools. Looks like JavaScript and C#, as well as purchase tools. Let's see, golden chickens, malware as a service provider. That's interesting. I'll dig into that. I can't say that I know about them. So the golden chickens.
I can't help but occasionally think that some of these tools that are written by the threat actors are sometimes better remote management tools than I pay for my MSP.
Interestingly enough, think about Screen Connect. Screen Connect is a tool that some of these threat groups are utilizing for. I mean, I'd imagine Ninja RMM is right behind, because I hear so many great things about it. It's only a matter of time before the authors of malware are like, you know what else really works good and has copy and paste and allows me to do screenshots? Ninja RMM.
Yep. So all those different RMM tools and everything else. But sometimes they're a pain in the ass. Like this stuff like is pervasive. It just works.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking about, of course, it always is a phishing email, which has a malicious LNK, which I've been talking to you guys about for the last, I don't know, year. These LNKs are out of control. This goes and grabs a JavaScript dropper, which is embedded inside of a PDF that creates a scheduled task on your machine. That scheduled task then goes and gets 2 executables, one a Java and one some other application. The Java app goes out and actually grabs something called the F player, And then F player is that second agent that the scheduled task then calls on, which grabs the rat. The rat is installing onto the machine and communicating back and forth through F player, it seems, where credentials look to be able to be dumped. I mean, once they got the creds, they come and go as they please. They don't really need you too much anymore. It looks like they were, trying to get people um, via spear phishing emails so that they can get credit card information. I think that's the big grab here right now, is trying to get credit card information. So what I think the most interesting thing is that they're using Python to be able to do this. Also, it looks like the command and control IP addresses are changing every few weeks, as well as the list of domains that are associated with the campaign. So still don't really know exactly who's running it, but these TTPs that they're using are fairly advanced, right? The custom stub, the changing of IP addresses and domains, and the use of a new and novel tool. Those are the things that create a campaign that can go for 2 or 3 years without being disrupted.
And I think we're seeing even a competitive market space, because it's been, we see, like they called them the cartel, I think, in one of the news articles, and that's kind of what they are. But now we're going to have competing ones, because once we know there's money in this market space, there's going to be another group that starts this up to, do their malware as a service. It's, and the money's there. With, like we mentioned, they're not catching them, which means they're not stopping the flow of it. It's getting ramped up. More and more companies are paying the ransom, and companies that don't pay the ransom broker it through third-party companies that pay the ransom on their behalf.
Right.
So yeah,
so that doesn't go onto the books.
Yep. So it doesn't go onto the books, or it doesn't get them in trouble. I don't know. We paid this company to remediate it for us. Wink, nod. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah. I mean, they're not the only group that's been doing a lot with credit cards lately. It looks like Telegram is getting utilized for credit card data to be smuggled through. So MageCart, of course, we've all been hearing about this, and it seems like they've been using a little bit of a new process to send content directly to Telegram while they're skimming using the JavaScript. So a store is compromised, customer goes ahead and is buying something using the credit card. The skimmer then takes that data, sends it to a Telegram channel. So now they're using Telegram as their command and control, right? So this gets them further and further away from the actual activities. And since Telegram hopefully isn't logging who is the owner of what accounts or who's going where, who's seeing what, this criminal should be able to go out on black market and sell this data, right? And or get money from criminal groups.
I feel targeted. The guy has a goatee that's doing the criminal work.
I'm sure he's got a ponytail too.
Yeah, I know. He looks like he's kind of scruffy in his long hair. This is interesting because one of the things about like Telegram is because they have an API that you can make requests for communication, and it's going to be easier to automate through this, but it does support levels of encryption. It's not blocked many places because Russia tried blocking it. They realized too many people used it. It's just too popular. So now it kind of has a free flow, both in and out of Russia, both in and out of a lot of other areas.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to block it. I mean, and even if you blocked it, you're dealing with me using Slack or somebody using Google or Tom using Twitter for this exact same data. As long as it's encoded and encrypted properly, you don't care that it's on public channels, because it doesn't matter that it's on a public channel at that point. It's googly gop until it gets decoded.
No, I forgot to do it in the show notes, but there was a couple people pointing out that, and it's a copycat of the way they were doing things by using Microsoft Office 365 domains that were completely, like Azure ones, temporary domains to get people to click on links. Someone was reusing some Google domains. They're valid domains. Once again, you figure out a way to exfiltrate something through one of those, either OneDrive, or it's not called OneDrive anymore, Microsoft Office 365 Drive, after they lost their lawsuit, and Google Drive, same thing. You figure out a way to exfiltrate that. No one's blocking Google Drive. You figure out a way to get data pushed through. you compromise someone's account, because the thing about Google is, yeah, cool, we can figure out who they are because it's going to be tied to account. Well, then you'll find it's tied to some small accounting firm in Texas that goes, what, we only have the same password on sticky notes on all the monitors.
Right.
What do you mean someone's doing something bad with our stuff?
Hey, and don't let the intern get on Twitter and take a picture in front of the monitor, because I've seen that, and that's how you get the username and password right on Twitter. Like, oh,
Yep.
look at the intern having a good first day.
I gotta admit, on Reddit, we may or may not have participated at some point in time, allegedly, at roasting a person who took a selfie and had their administrator password. They were bragging about how good they were, and they had their administrator password on their server cage in the room they were taking pictures in. They even had the management IPs in it. Yeah. Yeah, Xavier's like, if you guys can enhance that enough.
This comes directly from Tom. Pentium 2X for 844 gigs. Who knows what the fuck that means? But that's definitely, I mean, that's a really good password, honestly. You know, it's got
upper lower case numbers.
It's got upper lowers, numbers, everything. You're good to go. There you go. Oh no, it's actually Phenom 2 X4. Phenom. So it's a Phenom 2 4-core 840. This is probably the processor that's in the box, I would presume.
Well, at one time was forever ago was in the box before we put some good in there.
Oh yeah. I gotta go mess with it. I haven't opened it up. I'm burned out on fucking with computers. It works right now. Like when it works, you do not touch that shit. It's nice and it's 77 degrees in here. Shit's just working out. All right. I'm not about to go fuck with anything.
I know the feeling.
Oh my God. You know how long it took me to get it here? Anyway, don't put sticky notes on your server rack with your password. Just put sticky notes on your server rack with other things that will potentially piss off a threat actor, right? Like in my rack, I won't let you know where, but on some of these computers, if not all of them, if not one of them, if not all of them, do I have the data connector, the data wire for USB wired into power. So what happens when you send 12 volts of power over the data channel on USB? It starts to smell funny in the room. So don't go sticking shit into my computer, right? Like that's a lesson to the few of you who will ever get that close. Don't do that, because you'll lose the device. Yes. Booby traps, lying wait. There's nothing in the law about lying wait when it comes to computers. Only like bear traps and like C4 and shit. Nothing about like, you know, you can't booby trap your computers for diagnostic tools.
We had a clever setup we did for a guy. His server cage, when you unlocked it and opened it, it had a little zip tie and a pull cord on it. And as you did it, unless you knew exactly where to cut that and get that zip tie gone, what it did was pull the power out of the servers. And the reason why is because they all encrypted on boot. And that was they were some really interesting lawyers. And that was how we set them up. So when we swung the cage open, the servers would just power down suddenly and everyone would panic.
Good.
And it was like, oh, you guys turned it all off, FBI.
Oh, it's a shame. What password?
What password?
X, do you have a post-it note with Tom passwords on your rack?
Yeah. No, John, I have a password. I have a post-it note with your passwords on my rack. That's the best. That is the better answer.
There you go. Xavier has a Ubiquiti USG and a switch. Interesting. So I don't use the USG. If anybody wants to buy it, it's there. I have a beautiful PfSense firewall that treats me a little bit better than the USG will or ever could, just because of the tuning. It's just much better.
Yep. It has a RAID array in it for lots of packet captures set up on ZFS. So
I'm a packet capture fiend. That's how you get those 0 days.
Yep.
Right. Like that's how you get them. You're like, oh, how does Xfinity Peacock app authenticate on my smart TV? I wonder how. Oh, look,
Now, PfSense is like your Swiss Army knife. If you look up like PfSense and Wireshark, you'll find a couple. I did more than one video on this. First, how to packet capture on PfSense, but second, you can over SSH stream even a remote PfSense. So I can actually SSH into a client's PfSense system, filter, and bring back certain packets directly into Wireshark from my desk remotely. So
very nice.
There's PfSense is a good Swiss Army knife for being able to do that.
Yeah, and if you're having an incident in your environment, we can ship you a PfSense box. That's one of the ways that we can start to do our analysis from outside of the environment. We can just do passive analysis, actually look to see what the threat actor is doing in the environment, what connections are going in and out, without actually stopping them. That way we can gather that intel, because sometimes before you want to cut that access and actually rebuild your environment and salt the earth, you want to understand exactly who you were dealing with. It could be an insider threat. It could be a vendor. You could be allowing them right back in. It could be already in your backups. So you want to look at this stuff and have a real understanding of the baseline of your environment while it's under attack, know what's good and what's bad. And then once you come back online, once you're assuming that you're good, of course you assume breach. So you're looking at that traffic still, like Tom said, it's a Swiss Army knife. You can drop it in and do a lot of different things with it. So I keep it in my environment so that I understand how it works. Of course, I keep it back up, which is the USG, just in case shit hits the fan. I can't go unprotected because I put my gateway in bridge mode. So I literally cannot do that. Be a shame if my Windows PC gets a static IP address. I'll be honest. I'm running RDP locally, right? Because I like to have, the
easy access
my computer inside of my environment. But if for whatever reason my firewall just says, oh, by the way, that IP address you get now goes to the Windows PC, I'm having a bad day. Like, it's just not going to be fun for me. So,
I think we have some more stories about people with bad days.
Can you do a video on PfSense and the free Radius 3 plugin and 802.1x? I would say first thing, go to the forums, make sure that there's not already a video. Because knowing Tom, it's probably already a video. Tom, am I right?
Yeah, I don't think I have. I have some Radius videos. I have Radius and VPN. It goes to a next level of complexity is why I haven't done the video on that. Cost, benefit, time it takes to do. I don't know. It's I've had other people ask for it, but it's also breaks so many things trying to get it to work. It's just tedious. I don't know many people that use it in practice because of the extra layers. How many companies you see that have gone through not just like, full keyed authentication with Radius every time they log into Wi-Fi? You've been in a lot of enterprise environments. It's probably not set up in all of them because of the challenges it creates trying to get all the laptops connected.
Yeah, it becomes an issue because everybody's kind of like keen to mobility. So, I can't say that that's very common. Yeah,
it's a neat idea, but it's a lot of times people just go with the captive portal and authenticate that session like that too, because it's like an easier way to do it. So
that's what I do on my network. I have a captive portal in my environment, but I'm not defending against anything. I think his use case was for a camera system, so there may be something. There may be a reason why. I don't know. I'm not.
I don't know. Drop a link in the forums. Explain the goal. Start with the goal and what you're trying to achieve.
Right. Yeah, he says you can't captive portal a PoE camera, so he's trying to have a protected network that has. That makes sense. Yeah, put it.
Just filter for all the MAC addresses.
Put it inside the forum, and then me and Tom will just help you out. And then we have other people outside of us that'll help you out.
And the other thing you can do though is just put it. I've told people before this: if you want to lock the cameras, lock them to the MAC address to the port. If you say that port locks to this MAC address, because cameras don't move around. If you have a change in MAC address on a camera, you have a real problem. So someone tried to disconnect the camera at that point. So that's like one of the easiest. We did some consulting with the company, and because of all the infrastructure moved around, once we figured out their goal was to only secure certain things like that, certain pieces of infrastructure that should remain static. I showed them, even on Unify, you can just lock MAC address to a port. That means if someone even moves a port around, it won't work. So they have to stay statically the same. And if someone on the other end is trying to plug something in that wasn't expected to be plugged in, like they unplugged a camera to try to gain access, once again, the MAC address locking says that can't get on here. It's not the same MAC address.
Yeah, that's what I do. My only concern is that one day somebody looks at the device and goes, "Oh, the MAC address is
Right.
CE80."
But at that point, what are you going to do? If
You got a
how are
much
you going to
bigger
get a
problem.
cert on a? How are you going to put a cert on a PoE camera?
You're not. And if you can, then we got way bigger problems.
Right. So they're kind of dumb devices. So I don't know. Start with the goal. We can walk through it in the forums. But yeah, it's still it's also one of those things. Before, if you have secured your email and you've done like a million other things, then you can worry about that. From a terms of attack vector, listen to all the attacks we talk about over 58 episodes on this channel, and none of them were because the person didn't have EAP certs set up.
Right.
It's all because they tried to do something else or everything else.
Special
Especially
sauce.
everything else.
Oh man. Well, getting back into this news. So
Yes.
talking about high schoolers. These high schoolers, they're pretty aggressive these days. They're not fucking around. Florida high school student. Now remember, students in general typically don't like going to school. And I remember the Mirai botnet came out of the desire for not allowing people at Rutgers to be able to register for classes from a disgruntled person who wasn't able to get into a class they want to get into, because there's only 60 slots in that class for a semester. There's only 60 slots. That's it. It's a Tuesday and Thursday
Yep.
class. So 30 people. That's it. Right. And so if you miss your slot, even if you're the 61st person, you might be pissed off. You might need that class to graduate. You want to do a denial of service of everybody. Right. And so that's how we got the Mirai botnet, a really talented engineer who decided to go rogue. In this instance, we have a high school student who decided that the LMS, the learning management system that's used for the remote learning, was a victim of his denial of service attack. A 16-year-old junior admitted to attacking the school's My School online platform. And it seems like this distributed denial of service attack knocked it offline. And so we're imagining that the student probably just purchased some kind of botnet access, and here we are with 12 cyber attacks Wednesday morning from local and from outside the United States. So really interesting.
Yeah, and it's kind of, is this the next snow day now that more kids work remotely on school and things like that?
Right.
Is that the next snow day is actually when they denial of service to school? That's how they get a day out of school. They're like, oh yeah, internet's down, things like that. And
what a shame.
yeah, I keep it close, because I'm in tech and my son is he's in high school, so I keep a close tab on what he's up to. He doesn't seem to quite have the hacker spirit at all, which is actually in some way a relief. Like, part of me says I'd like him to be more interested in technology. Also, this makes me kind of happy I'm not, standing in court with him.
Right.
Because that doesn't go well. They're like, oh, where'd he learn it? Oh, his dad has a company where he does this. Oh, we know how. Dad taught him.
Man.
Bad influence.
Ouch. No Self says, how's the teaching going? It's going pretty good. Yeah, it's about as much as I can say there. It's going pretty good.
Teaching's fun. It's a challenge.
Got some good students. Yeah, I mean, when you teach someone who in their day job, does something that's non-technical, and then you teach them how networking works, and explaining to them what a MAC address is, what IPv4 is, what IPv6 is, how to calculate MAC addresses, how to calculate IP addresses, what a class A, B, and C is, what RFC 1918 is. There's a lot there. I mean, you're cramming this information into the students' minds. So, I feel for them, because there's been years of me learning this stuff at my own pace, and I still pick up here's and there's, right? And Tom, you can speak as a senior network engineer, someone who's an expert at that level. There's a lot that comes
It,
along with that network level.
yeah. It's one of those things. One, you have to have a passion for learning and like be obsessed with it, because it is you're exponentially more useful in the cybersecurity world as you have these. This is one of the reasons
Mhm.
Xavier's really good at the Aurora shells, is because he's done application programming, he's done web application programming.
Mhm.
And on top of that, you've got a bunch of networking knowledge to tie that together, and that's kind of what you need, is that well-rounded, if you want to be really good at it, because you can't just hit walls all the time. Especially in cybersecurity, it's a lot different than when your job is just a front end developer for some application, or more specifically, when you're a front end developer for some very specific application. You end up with a much narrower scope because that's all you have to do. So
Right.
this is it's that broader knowledge. And of course, you're dropping them in. You want to talk about how to get reverse shell, but they don't understand how to get to the networking for it. So it becomes
Right.
like, okay, where do we start? What's the gap they have?
Or why the port 80 isn't working, right? Well, you're running with the lower privilege user, and anything under port 1000, you're not going to be able to
Yep.
fire up, right? Or why, why this port that they decided to use 3389 doesn't work. Well, because it may already be in use, right? And like explaining to them what a port is and the difference between TCP and UDP, like there's just a lot there. So it's fun, but it's challenging. It is
Yeah.
definitely a challenge, because you want to make sure that these lessons, they build on top of one another, right? So very soon we'll be in a position where we're using exploits and attacking our Windows machine with our Linux machine, right? But last week you were learning about networking and what networking was, and then this week you're learning about virtualization and how to stand up Windows 10. It's maybe your first time ever installing an operating system, coupled with the first time ever dealing with virtualization. There's and we were talking about a matter of 2 days. There's a lot there, right? So um I feel I'm super compassionate, and I'm happy that like I have the passion to take the time outside of the classroom to try and help these people. As I spend a lot of time mentoring outside of the classroom, so it's been nice.
Yeah. And this is part of, anyone who watches my YouTube channel, which are probably a lot of the people over here. I make a ton of videos because that's my easiest way to do things at scale and make the knowledge I have accessible to people. Throw it in a video.
Mm-hmm.
I make the video once, many people can watch it. And the cost of watching it, some stupid fucking YouTube ads.
Right.
So
Right.
if you can't afford YouTube Red, you can still watch them. You'll just have to watch some stupid ads that YouTube inserts. But hey, that's life.
It's
It's a
cheaper.
small price to pay. It's way less than college. YouTube ads are way less than college tuition. So
Yeah, I'll tell you what, my class is not cheap. I won't go into how much it costs, but it's not
yeah,
cheap. It's University of Michigan. It's University of Michigan, and cybersecurity, the College of Engineering. It's not cheap, but it
no,
is. We're thorough about it. We took the time to make sure you understand this shit.
yep,
And I don't care if that means that I got to work with you at 9 o'clock in the morning, and then when you get off work, and then the next day, we're gonna get you through it, because you can learn it. It's possible. So,
yeah.
and
It
I
always
have some
seems
really
so.
smart students.
It always seems so daunting at first, but trust me, once you start getting a few concepts, the pieces fall into place. You have all this peripheral knowledge around you that you can't quite piece together, but then that one thing, you'll finally figure out that one little piece in the middle, and it all comes together. It's just one of those, you got to get it. So,
What I focused on is teaching people how to teach themselves. I don't focus on telling people the same thing over and over and over again. I show them different ways to research so that they can actually go out and seek this information on their own. Then you start to see people leverage you less and less, because they're going to be like, they start to be like, hey, this person is only going to go use the tool, which is Google. So like, all right, I'm not even about to I'm going to start there and bring them the Google results and bring them the research that I got, versus being like, I got a question, and then I'm like, okay, what's your question? Clickety clack, right into Google. Oh, look, the first the first link, right? Because once I teach you that there's nothing wrong with Googling for your question, and
mhm.
that's on par for the job, then that actually unlocks that, like you say, that it's up to you how much you want to learn at that point. You are infinitely smart. That's the reason why you see this grand curve after Google of people getting into cybersecurity and learning the program, because I now have a mentor by way of Google that I otherwise would have never had, right? And so once you learn how to use that tool, once you learn how to use the Google machine, you're unstoppable.
It does. And here I am. I spend time Googling stuff that sometimes I'm embarrassed it's in my search history because it seems like something I should just have at the tip of my tongue, but I don't. But whatever. You know?
I Google discounts, man. I'm like, okay, I added up exactly what this customer owes me. What's 15% of this? Like,
Yeah.
I don't even throw it into the calculator. I'm using Google for the simplecities, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Anyway.
Yeah.
But we chat it up all the time. We get on squirrels. RPF. The RPF is I'm not 100% sure with the RPF, but I will say that it's probably the railroad.
Railway Protection Force.
There you go. The Railroad Protection Force of the Southwestern Railways on Tuesday claimed a major breakthrough in busting a cross-border criminal gang involved in illegal software for e-tickets. So we're talking about, for one, there's one place in the world where I could imagine that this is rampant, and it's India. Because let's be honest, they probably have all types of software engineers that want to use their skills to be able to solve problems, and money is a problem in a country, in emerging economies. And so instead of me paying for my train everywhere, because that costs me money and I'm actually limited on that resource, but I'm extremely smart and I know how to Google, I'm just going to Google how to make my own tickets. And they use an open source ticketing software, and they use a numbering system that's incremental. I probably can print my own tickets, right? The same way that people think that they can print their own checks, and there's some people that get away with it. There's some people that don't. These people were pretty good about it. They had about 25,000 hackers across India. So they were actually really, really good. They made money worth crores. That's probably like hundreds of thousands, if not millions.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really, really interesting. It looks like they were doing high-level hacking of Linux-based systems for hacking applications on the railroad. Yeah. So it looks like
25,000 hackers involved. That's the part that's mind-numbing. That's a big number of people there.
That's huge. I mean, but India is very large.
Yeah. There's a billion people in India.
But 25,000. I mean, but Tom, this could also be like hey, do you need a copy of the software kind of thing?
Right.
Like, I got the software that gets you the free tickets, and we know people that are involved with IPTV, right? Like, the moment that they crack on that, there's going to be hundreds of thousands of people that are quote unquote involved in that quote unquote hacker ring of IPTV, right? Even though it's just plugging in a tuner to your cable box. Right? It could be something that simple. Now, I don't know exactly what they were using, but it looks like there was a Pakistani-based software that was leveraging this software for tickets. What's interesting to me is genuine passengers could not book tickets. That is what's really, really interesting. And then in seconds of opening the tickets, they will vanish via the software. So
and this is where you really need to test these applications out really well. So it sounds like they were exploiting some possibly basic flaw in the software. Fundamentally, this was a non-technical news outlet, so we didn't get the details of what they were doing. But
unfortunately,
that is
got to keep a lookout for that one though.
Yeah, this is just poor software vetting is probably the base cause of how this hack occurred. Like you said, someone just found it was incremental numbers.
Right, I'm telling you that happens all the time. Did you hear about this WordPress 0 day that's out right now? Man, this plugin
probably why we were just pushing a bunch of updates. We've gotten away very far from hosting WordPress. We're down to a few places we host. But I'm not shocked at all. WordPress, it's so many pieces put together with PHP. And it's not that PHP is bad. It's that PHP is
bad.
It tends to attract a lot of lower end developers. That would probably be a good way to describe it. So there's
Sure.
ends up with more code flaw. It's not
It's
that you
easy.
can't
It's
write PHP
easy.
good code. It doesn't
Yeah.
attract the best coders who end up
Right.
writing bad PHP code.
I think that it's hard to write good PHP code.
It's
Is what
hard
it
to write.
comes down
Yeah,
to.
if you're not really taking the time to put things on, you'll end up with someone who just turns globals on and says, "Well, that made it work."
Right. Done.
Done.
So in this case, it looks like there was a patch, excuse me, a bug in something called WP File Manager, which is extremely popular, over 700K active installations. And it looks like they got remote code execution and file upload. So attacker could do whatever they want, steal data, destroy data, use the website for any purposes, could be crypto mining, could be anything. So yeah, it's a pretty interesting time to be alive right now. If you're running this, please update it. The code that was being exploited is actually from the L-Finder project. So if you use the L-Finder project, please look into that. So yeah.
Another day,
I
another
mean,
WordPress hole.
another day, another WordPress hole. There's no way to get around it.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
I think that's the last story we had.
I think that was the last story. What is the
Yeah.
chat up to? You guys are chattering away.
Chattering away.
We got
56
55
people.
watchers. I want 56 likes. Let's go.
Yeah.
Look us up with the likes. They matter. They help. They help a lot.
Helps that YouTube algorithm. Makes other
we
people
try to
know
get-
that they should also be watching this podcast.
Yeah.
Or
And also,
show.
if you don't mind, share this. Let people know why it's so amazing. Tag us on Twitter. We're really trying to grow this thing. So yeah.
We're trying to get more steady with it, and you know, when everyone keeps sharing it, that means we have to be more steady with it. Winter's coming, which means I'm more available because I hibernate in winter inside. Like I'm inside a lot, but I go outside sometimes when it's nice out. But when it's not nice out, I got no reason to go outside anymore.
Yeah.
Hell, I don't want to even go to the grocery store in the winter. I'm like, shit, this is cold. Especially that around February and January in Michigan. It just sucks.
Man, that's just a terrible time of year.
Terrible time of year. I'm not. Oh yeah, that's right. I got family here. That's why I live here. My kids live here. That's
There
right.
you go.
If they didn't, I'd probably go somewhere warmer. But then, you know, I see people talking about Florida, and I was watching all that devastation. I'm like, oh, that's why I don't live there. Look at that place.
Houston. I looked at
Shit
Houston.
got tore up down there.
I looked at Houston for the same exact amount of money in Detroit. Houston is like a futuristic palace for the same exact amount of money. And we're cheap here. We're cheap. They're nice and cheap down there too. And everything is new. You know why? Because every year or so,
yeah,
it gets blown away.
It's like, let's start it all over.
You get a nice little refresh. Now, if you can deal with every other year your house being restarted, then it's not a terrible place to be.
Make sure you got offsite backups. They're really important there.
I mean, the good news is Texas is so big, you could probably just have an offsite in the other part of Texas.
Yeah, that's true too. That is very true.
The part of Texas that doesn't get hit by hurricanes, you just put it in Austin. There you go. Done. Austin don't get no stinking hurricanes.
Yeah.
Why are they still building wooden houses? No, it's not the wooden houses. It's the big, huge, beautiful skyscrapers that are made out of metal and glass. So the moment that a nice gust comes through,
where was that? Was that one in Houston that all the glass got ripped out of?
That was Miami. That was Miami.
That was
wild. That was crazy.
Look up that one on YouTube. I watched a couple different videos of that. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, I mean, imagine being in there. Like that's the reason why you vacate. You vacate, right? Like you know that the hurricane is coming 4 or 5 days before. You load up you get a dually. You slap your old school on the trailer. You slap your side by side on the trailer, and you fucking go up to North Carolina for a while, and then you just like go ride around up there.
Go somewhere where the storm isn't.
By side. Right. Yeah. Come back later. As long as you got your OD and your side by side, you're good to go. That's how I look at it. That would be my plan. But see, I have a lady who, doesn't want to be dealing with all that shit. So I can't just live for me. Otherwise, it's actually a benefit that my place washes away every 2 years.
Yeah. Like, cool, I'll start over.
Forensics nightmare. It's like, oh man. Anywho, it's been fun. We appreciate you guys coming to check us out.
Thank you all. I see more likes jumping up. Thank you everyone for joining us. This was awesome.
Yes, thank you. And until next time, we will see you next week, same place, same time.
Yep.
And this has been How They Got Hacked. Thank you for coming.
All right. Thanks.
Peace.
There's
no button to press.
I know. We got to work on that. We'll get a remote one. So when you press the button, it kills it here.
We have to. There we go.